Monday, May 11th, 11:44 a.m. My name is Brian, and this is the Center Aisle. Recently, one of my videos kind of started getting comments about how we are getting basically railroaded with high oil prices or gas prices. Honestly, it's high everything because diesel fuel runs the economy basically. And people are thinking that because we're energy independent, that's indicative of how we should be paying. We shouldn't be paying high dollar as everybody else. It comes from our land. We should be able to set the prices. Well, my opinion on that, I'm going to save till the end. And I want you to understand something. Just because I'm reporting this doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with this. I'm just reporting how things actually happen and what they do and what they try to get us to understand or think that they're trying to get us to understand. Is it all honest? Not necessarily. For me, it is. From their end, probably a lot of it's not. So I'm going to do my best to break this down into a little bit more detail so everybody understands what's going on. And again, this is not that I believe in what they're doing. Just wait around to the end to hear my personal stand on this, and you'll understand. I'll start out by saying a big hint. The thumbnail to this video, that's me standing in front of my farm equipment, in front of my agricultural fields that I plant on a yearly basis, that I live off of. That's what I do. And trust me, I burn through the diesel. I burn through the gas. I spend a lot of money on fuel and energy. I don't get natural gas. I'm on propane, so I get it from both sides. So stick around to the end and listen to my personal stance on this, and you'll understand where I'm coming from. Again, I'm just reporting this. A lot of times there's a lot of sarcasm in it, trying to break up a bad situation, make it sound a little better. I understand that people are a little chapped about it. I am too. But just stick around to the end, you'll hear mine. And until then, I'm going to do my best to try and break this down for you guys, okay? So America produces millions of barrels of oil every single day. We have pipelines, we have refineries, we have offshore drilling. We have shale fields bigger than some countries. So why are Americans still paying global prices at the pump? That question exploded in my comments after the UAE walked away from OPEC quotas. People started asking, wait a minute, if they set their own products and production, why can't America lower our prices? And honestly, it's a fair question, more than fair question. Today we're going to break that down. Why oil is priced globally, why domestic production doesn't guarantee cheap gas, how private corporations shape energy prices, and why Americans are increasingly asked whether this entire system serves Wall Street more than the public. And in all honesty, I think it does serve corporate America more than it does the public. So America's not short on oil. Let's get that straight. One thing needs to be understood immediately. America is not running out of oil. In fact, the United States became one of the largest oil producers on Earth thanks to shale drilling. States like Texas, North Dakota, Alaska, Pennsylvania, am I forgetting anybody? It turned America into an energy superpower. So when Americans hear prices are high because of supply, many people immediately respond, then why are we drilling so much? That's where the real story begins. The global price segment or system, oil is not priced like milk. It's not priced like bread. It's a global traded commodity. That means a barrel of oil drilled in Texas competes against barrels from Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, the UAE, who just left OPEC, all at the same time. So if global oil prices rise because of OPEC cuts production, war breaks out, shipping lanes are threatened, Straits of Hormuz, huge, big example, great example, or demand rises in China, American companies usually charge more too. Now here's the part making people angry. and it's not a bad reason to be angry. The oil may come from American soil, but it's sold at global market value. That means Americans don't necessarily get American prices. They get world prices. So by me doing this, I'm hoping that the response, even though some of you may not agree with what I reported, it doesn't mean that I agree with it either. However, if you want more deep dives like this, real explanations without corporate talking points, hit subscribe, please. Hit the like button and drop your thoughts below. Do you think America should keep following global oil prices, or should domestic energy mean domestic advantage? In other words, our prices should be better for us. I would greatly appreciate it. I do appreciate the comments. I really do. Okay, let's talk about why companies don't sell cheaper here. This is where the corporate side comes in. Most U.S. oil production is controlled by private companies like ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips. I'm sure everybody's heard of these names. These are publicly traded corporations, stock market. Their legal responsibility is not provide Americans cheap gas. Their responsibility is maximize shareholder value. So if oil sells for $80 globally, instead of $45 domestically, investors expect companies to sell all the higher market value. They want to sell it at higher market value, all of it. And that is where the public backlash comes from. Because many Americans hear record production, record profits, and then look down at expensive diesel, expensive groceries, expensive shipping, expensive everything. There's a lot of times that companies raise prices just to raise them for better profit, not because of diesel or oil. And like I said, diesel is the real economy. Gasoline gets headlines. Diesel runs civilization. Diesel powers. Farms, me, lots of diesel, lots and lots. Trucks, trains, shipping, heavy equipment, construction, emergency logistics, military supply chains. I mean, it's all there. When diesel prices rise, everything, and I mean everything, rises. That's why inflation feels worse than government reports sometimes suggest. If it costs more to move goods, it costs more to buy goods. I'm going to say that again. If it costs more to move the goods, it costs more to buy the goods. When I say move, I'm not talking about shipping only. Move it from the ground to you. And now comes the major development. The UAE just recently, during this war, or not war, whatever they want to call it, the UAE recently left OPEC production restrictions because they were tired of quotas limiting how much oil they could pump. That move sent shockwaves through the energy markets because countries are beginning to ask, why should we limit production if we can make more money independently? If more nations have OPEC discipline, production could rise, prices could fall, and Saudi Arabia's grip weakens. But it could also trigger price wars that establish global energy markets. So think about that for a second. It could also trigger price wars that destabilize global energy markets. Could America do it differently? This is where the political fight begins. Some Americans argue if we produce the oil here, Americans should get lower domestic prices. Ideas being discussed include export limits, domestic pricing systems, strategic subsidies, windfall profit taxes. There's that key word again, taxes. They're going to get their share somehow. Or national energy policies focused on consumer instead of investors. Critics say that would interfere with free market. Supporters say the current system already protects corporations more than citizens, which is true in my mind. I believe that honestly. That debate is only getting louder. You are being heard. Now, there's a part almost nobody talks about honestly. What would happen if America actually did lower domestic energy prices? At first glance, it sounds obvious. Cheaper gas, cheaper diesel, cheaper groceries, cheaper shipping. Sounding good so far. Lower inflation, lower manufacturing costs, and more money staying in American pockets. Now, I could go on forever about lower manufacturing costs. Being retired from General Motors, UAW side, I've seen it. You're not going to get lower manufacturing costs. Those are very real potential benefits. Cheap energy built much of modern America. Affordable fuel impacts trucking, farming, that would be me, airlines, factories, construction, and nearly every product in stores. Almost every product in stores. If America had significantly lower energy costs than Europe or parts of Asia, it could make the U.S. an economic magnet for manufacturing again. Now, we have to look at both sides of this, unfortunately. We have to balance the negatives as well. There are risks, too. If prices fall too far, drilling slows, companies stop investing, small oil producers collapse, layoffs hit energy states, and America could become dependent on foreign oil again. That already happened during the previous oil crashes. And there's another issue. If America artificially kept domestic prices low while global prices stayed high, companies would have to have massive incentive to export fuel overseas, reduce domestic supply, or cut production entirely unless government restrictions were imposed. That's where free market supporters warn. You can't simply force cheap prices without distorting the entire market. That's not me saying this. That's where free market supporters warn. So, at the center of this entire argument is one simple question. Who should America's energy system serve first? Global market? Shareholders? Foreign trade? Or the American public? Because right now, millions of Americans look around and say, we're producing enormous amounts of energy, so why does it still feel like we're getting squeezed? And after the UAE move, that conversation just got a whole lot bigger. Trust me, it's huge. And this is where I land personally. This is what I've asked you to wait for. This is my landing, where I feel. You may agree or disagree, but I'm not going to lie to you about it. I do not think companies should be villainized for making a fair, now listen to this, a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Businesses have to invest time, money, infrastructure, employees, and profits just to stay viable and competitive. That's reality, unfortunately. But at the same time, when Americans are genuinely struggling with inflation, groceries, diesel, again, runs the economy, housing, and basic living costs, and trust me, Iran has no genuine living right now. Seeing corporations post record profits year after year does not sit right with a lot of people, including me. Because if working families are carrying the burden during hard economic times, many Americans feel large corporations should carry some of that burden too. And let's be honest, this is me saying this. The profits of major energy companies far outweigh most blue-collared families will make in a lifetime. It's not really about whether companies should make money. Most Americans agree they should. The real question is, where is the balance between healthy profits and a system where ordinary people feel squeezed from every direction? It makes me feel sick that these companies feel okay. to sit there and make record profits knowing that they don't have to during our time of struggle. What I report is exactly what is being reported outside. I do not set the markets. I do not set the prices. I do not agree with how they do this during our time of struggle because the cost to us goes way out further than what we even realize. So we're paying higher prices for oil that was already high to begin with. We are making their profits. We are paying their wage by doing so. We are paying for this war and will continue to pay for this war down the road for a very, very long time. I do not feel that the companies are taking on a big enough burden. Again, this is just my opinion, agree or disagree. They do need to take on a larger burden than they do. They're there to make money. I get it. That's why they're there. If they don't make a profit, they can't stay afloat. But do they really need to make that much money? We stay afloat on much less, do we not? We do. Some people think that we should still get it and figure out a way as ongoing to keep prices low for Americans and charge global prices somewhere else. I mean, reports say that China gets oil cheaper from Iran than they would get oil cheaper than they would get it from us. Well, there's a trade-off there. I think China helps Iran behind the scenes more than we know with other avenues like this war. So I hope that this may have helped some. And again, I don't want anybody to think that I believe 100% of what I report because it's not that. It's not that. I report what is being put out there. I do my best to try and fact check it to make sure that it is right. And if they're going to put it out there and brag about it and slap us in the face, or there's other things I can say, but I won't do it. If they're going to slap us in our face and sit there and laugh at us afterwards, then, I don't know what we would do. The only thing we could do is, again, change who our politicians are. That's the only way around it. And that's why I stay in the center aisle to try and keep politics at bay as much as possible and look at the true issue on hand. When it comes time for the voting booth, I don't vote on wedge votes like gun rights, or if you're going to abolish liquor or alcohol or tax hikes, or I vote on the entire platform that's going to affect my family the most, whether it's down the road or now. I don't do it on wedge votes, which is exactly how politicians run. A lot of it is heavily weighted in the media, and depending on who you watch and who you listen to, you're not getting the whole story. For example, you watch Fox, you're going to get a Republican biased media, and if you watch CNN, you're going to get Democrat. It's just the way it's made. That's how they do it, and they invest billions in it every year to get it done. They sway votes by the wedge votes, the ones that people find most contradictive. And right now, it's oil. There's a part of me that, again, I'm not a Trump fan. I'm truly not a Trump fan. I don't agree with how he does things. I do agree with this war because it should have been done long, long ago. Democrat and Republican all swept it under the rug. Here's some money, shut up and go away. So I am going to support the war, and I'm going to continue to support the war. Do I agree with how it's happening? No, I don't. Because it's the same way every time. They just delay. And we let them dig out. They're never going to agree to what we want. And people continue to say we should just bomb. Epic Fury solved nothing but proving to people we can blow up an entire country in a little bit of no time. We already knew that. We have the best military there is on the planet of the earth by far, by tenfold. We haven't even seen what our military can do yet. I've never been in the military, but lots of family has been in the military. And if you have paid attention to what we did, trust me, Iran is a huge country. I do not believe that we've set them back as far as they say. I do not believe that we stopped bombing because we wanted to do this negotiation-wise. And if we wanted, we should have done it negotiation-wise to begin with. Bombing them did not bring them to the table, I can promise you. You can see what they're doing. They're saying they're not going to talk about the nuclear program, and they're not going to. And even if they do, they're going to lie. There's going to have to be a presence from NATO or somebody there constantly because they're going to lie, cheat, and steal. That's just who they are. And if it takes me paying higher diesel costs for a while to ensure that they're not going to get their hands on a nuclear weapon, then that's what I'm going to have to do. Because I do honestly believe, deep inside me, that if they had a nuclear weapon, we would be hurting more for gas now than we would if they didn't have the nuclear weapon. Look at what they're doing now without the nukes. Imagine if they had them. That would not be a pretty picture. They could change global market forever. And they would if they could. Trust me, they would. So with that, and again, my personal opinion at the end, it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with everything I report on. I just don't let everybody know all the time. I try to make a little sarcasm and light out of a bad situation. It's hard to deal with, I understand. Trust me, I got to go out and go back to work and plan again today and pay that high dollar for diesel fuel. So I hope everybody understands that. I hope people understand that it's not what I believe 99% of the time. I just report on what I hear and what I see. And I hope everybody else pays attention to the bigger picture. This isn't just about what we're paying at our house. It's about what America needs to do to make it better for America. So with that being said, that was your center aisle breakdown. My name is Brian, and I will be back with any updates that come to us. Everybody have a great day.